after wearing the mask for a few hours. And a lot of people are recycling the same mask day after day after day. So you're inhaling these chemicals now, further causing the histotoxic hypoxic injury just from wearing that mask.
So you'd refuse to wear one, period. I'm about to get on a flight next week. If they try to make me wear one, can I say that?
Here's what you can say. You can say, and I've been flying quite a bit, okay? Every time, like the first 2 times we flew, we were the only people on the plane not wearing masks. When we flew from Dallas to Vegas on Thursday, I would say a third of the plane was not wearing masks. And the administrative people, not even the flight crew, these were people in suits that would come on, but they had the airline's badge, were randomly picking people to ask them whether they're not wearing a mask. And I made, in first class, there was 4 people not wearing a mask. Myself, Dr. A, and 2 other people, a guy in front of me and a guy behind me. And the guy that came up, you could tell he was looking. He looked at me, and I was like ready for him, and he broke eye contact with me like immediately. He's like, I could tell he's like, I don't want to talk to this one. Let me find somebody else. And he talked to the guy right in front of me, and I grabbed this letter, and I was getting up to go up there to help him, and he turned around and walked back, and I said, what did he say? And he said he just wanted to know why I didn't want to wear a face mask. And I said, what did you say? And he goes, I said, I don't want to wear it. You know, I've had a problem with it. I don't want to wear a mask. And they said, okay. They didn't know what else to say. Because here's the thing. If an airline tells somebody, look, you got to wear a face mask, and that person starts to have a problem with their airway, that's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, because they just caused that person to have a heart attack or a respiratory condition or an asthmatic attack, whatever it is. The very first time we were on the plane, I just said that I have a reactive airway issue, which I do. If I get into an area with cigarettes, I start having an asthmatic type thing. Cats.
I do that with cigarettes. Cigars are cool. Weed's cool, but cigarettes, terrible.
Cigarettes, well,
I'm joking.
So I just basically told them that, and they were like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." They had no issues. Because can you imagine telling somebody that, oh, you're allergic to strawberries? Well, you got to still eat a strawberry. I don't care whether you're allergic to it. You got to eat a strawberry and cause an anaphylactic reaction. The person's going to die.
Yeah.
So it would be idiotic for an airline to do this.
They're smart enough not to, don't you think?
That's right. That's exactly what they're doing. They're saying that it's mandatory, but hey, if you can't wear it, we understand.
Well, yeah, because just like that guy that's going to be meeting us that talked down the state police. Mm-hmm. He just basically told the state police, like, dude, are you guys following lawful orders? Like, are you really doing what's right? Or are you really doing what this governor says when you have no right to do it?
Right.
Same thing.
We've been talking about this. You've heard our messages to the law enforcement community, the military community. You've heard those public broadcasts we've put out. We were just talking to some law enforcement people in Dallas at the airport. And they were like so appreciative. They were shaking my hand. They're saying, thank you. You know, they had their masks up. They're like, we know this is a scam. We know this is BS. We got to wear it because they're telling us to wear it, but we know it's bullshit. I mean, they just came out and they said it. And this wasn't just one law enforcement officer. There was multiple. And the TSA people, same thing, thanking me for, putting this out, being recognized. People saying, you're the doctor that did the YouTube videos on this COVID crap. And I said, yeah, that's me. They're asking to have autographs taken or pictures taken, which is nice, but they're getting the message. And they say, what can we do? And I said, that's what you can do, is you can talk to the next person, the person to your right, the person to your left, make people aware. Because as soon as people become empowered with knowledge, you cannot take advantage of them anymore. You cannot victimize them anymore.
Next problem I'm going to have is with schools. Because again, I have 2 little ones still in school, and they're trying to get me to, I go to a private school, or they do. So they're trying to get me to sign back up. I'm like, I'm not doing anything until I hear your rules. Because if my kids are going to be put in school where they're 6 feet apart and there's no playing and there's no school, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And or mainly they got to wear a mask. I'm not putting them in school.
And I wouldn't either.
I know, but now I'm thinking there's a law, I think, that your kids have to go to school.
No, you can homeschool them.
Yeah, but my point is there are like truancy officers that if your kid doesn't go to school, they will come and you're in trouble.
Well, again,
so let's
same thing with the homeschooling programs. I mean, the homeschooling has been established in all 50 states, and people can do the homeschooling. I mean,
I was going to do a homeschool VT, mm-hmm. a training system, because mm-hmm. most parents, they don't know how to homeschool a mm-hmm. kid.
That's
but
a
if
great
you
idea.
Did, a lot of people would be homeschooled.
That's a great idea. In fact, I think Ron Paul had a homeschooling program that they were rolling out about 2 years ago, because my youngest son, he was in a homeschool program for a year, and when he was with me, and I don't know what the status of Ron Paul's program is, but I think that would be a fantastic idea to have a VT for homeschooling. That would be great.
So if the school says your kid has to go to school and they have to wear a mask and you refuse, would that letter help there too?
I don't know whether the letter would necessarily help there, because you could say that if the child has a legitimate problem with the respiratory condition or anything like that, yeah, then they shouldn't be wearing a mask. That could definitely help with that. But my question would be, why would you want your child to go into a school even though they're not wearing a face mask, everybody else is wearing a face mask? Then it's that social, shaming and the peer pressure, and why is that kid not wearing a mask? And you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want my kid to go to school like that. If a school is that, if they're going to wear the mantle of being a dumbass, wearing something only because all the other sheeple are going off the cliffs, that they're going to do it too. I don't want my child in that. What are they going to learn from that? That you should conform and you should become a robot like everybody else and follow anything that's idiotic, not based on science, not based on research, not based on the truth, but because it's being a myth that's been propagated, follow it blindly. I don't want my kid to be in a school like that.
Yeah, me either. I won't put my kids in school if they are forced to wear a mask or 6 feet apart. Did you see that video that the school's like, okay, let's talk about returning, and it's literally there's X's and they've marked the entire school. The kids have to stay on an X and they're 6 feet apart. So it's literally like you file in to classroom where everybody's separated, and then the lunch tables have plexiglass little slots where like you're literally isolating the kid all day long, making them walk in single file line over a virus that has a very small death rate. Like, what's happening?
Death rate less than the regular death rate from the regular flu, which of course it's negligible. I mean, the science has already come out. Stanford's already published this. The media is propagating lie upon lie. And the thing is this.
But why are they allowed to do it?
Well, I don't think they're being allowed to do it. I think the media has been controlled by the intelligence community for many, many years. And this is an orchestration of the globalist agenda to try to take over the country, right? Not just our country, but the countries of the entire world. I mean, look at this. If you start really looking at it from a political standpoint, and we've already been told during, like when we had the Advanced Medicine Conference, we were the only conference in the entire United States, period, an advanced medicine conference that they tried to shut down, which they weren't successful. We had 256 attendees from 15 different countries. If people were sitting on each other's laps, Brad, they wouldn't have been closer. No face masks. The entire hotel staff was wearing face masks on Friday when the conference started Friday night. On Monday morning when we left, guess what? Not a single employee was wearing face masks anymore. So people, got it. But the thing is that this advanced medicine conference, when we did it, according to what everybody else was saying, the media did a hack job trying to say that we were violating social distancing. They had to call the police to break it up. All lies. The police officers, all there, I already knew them. I knew them from the day before. And the person who set this all up was a guy that served in the same unit that I served with, the 5th Special Forces Group, years ago. He's part of the Charlotte SWAT team. He set up the private security with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. The hotel contacted the police department and said, no off-duty police officers are going to be allowed to work here for this conference. They said, okay. My friend called me. He said, look, don't worry about it, because now you don't have to pay anybody. If there's a problem, we'll just come. So I knew who the district sergeant in charge was. I had his cell number the night before. I touched base with him at 7:30 in the morning. He said, look, I'll come over here, meet with you if you want. But he goes, I don't think there's going to be any problem. I said, I don't think there's going to be any problem either. He goes, hey, you got my cell number? Any problem, just call me. 15 minutes later, there was a problem where they weren't letting people come in. The hotel security wasn't letting people come in. I called the police officer. All the squad cars that came were all part of his squad. And it was completely lied to from the mainstream media, from Business Insider and all the other people that have covered the story. Complete lies. Now, according to them, we should all be dead because we came into social distancing. There's 256 people from 15 different countries. Not a single person sick. One person had a headache, and it's because he met some girl and he went home with her that night, and I think he kind of got a sinus infection, and that was it. And it was fine after a day. It wasn't COVID-19.
So when people hear this type of talk, they think that people are saying there is no COVID-19.
No, there's a COVID-19, but everybody's been exposed to it by this time. I think COVID-19. Okay, so first, viruses mutate, and they've probably gone through numerous renditions of mutations by this point anyway. COVID-19 is a real thing. It is a chimeric derivative. It is a real viral Frankenstein man-made version. There's no doubt about that. But by the time they started talking about everything, I think the entire population of the world was already exposed to it. In fact, the Stanford study that came out and said that the death rate from COVID-19 was far less than what it was the same exact that was seen from the seasonal flu. Remember, that's using the artificial numbers, which would mean that if you extrapolate that data, it's far less than the seasonal flu, because if you look at the real numbers, meaning that you don't take the suicides and the heart diseases and the shot in the head people and saying that they were mislabeled as COVID-19 deaths. If you really removed them and looked at the actual numbers, it would be far lower than the seasonal flu. But even with the artificially inflated numbers, Stanford's research showed it's the same rate of death. ABC News came out, instead of talking about that fact, they said, Stanford study shows that this is far more prevalent than they thought. Well, of course it's more prevalent because we've all been exposed to it. And Stanford study did say that, but it's far more prevalent and the death rate is still the same as regular flu. So why are we all getting a knickers and a twist for? Over what? So this is the information that's the truth. So you would think that people would be looking at those facts. Instead, what they're doing is they're looking at the misinformation. So there is a COVID-19, and it is very virulent, and it's very resistant, yes, but it has been manipulated, and they just didn't do a very good job with it. It is very virulent, but if it's very virulent, that means it's already all throughout the world. And I believe that both my sons had it, I think, in early February. I think that in fact, some of your staff I was talking to that said in January they came off a cruise, they think they had it. And I think it started probably around October, November, and anybody that had a really bad flu that was atypical, they probably already had COVID-19. To be tested now is foolishness because they've amplified the PCR test to the point that everybody's essentially going to show positive. We don't know what has been introduced in other flu shots, H1N1, seasonal flu, trivalent, covalent flu shots. We just don't know. Herpes zoster shots, we don't know what's in there. When people say, well, of course we know what's in there. No, we don't know what's in there, okay? If we knew what's in there, then what justification is there for glyphosate, Roundup, to be in vaccines? And that's what they're finding now. So there's all sorts of, nobody probably tested for it before, but somebody decided, hey, let me test for this, and boom, it shows up. What the hell is weed killer doing inside our vaccines? All right. So there's all sorts of stuff in our vaccines that we don't know about. But the studies that have been done have already shown COVID-19 positive testing in cats that had gotten the trivalent flu shot with no exposure to COVID-19. How does that happen? Well, if you amplify the test enough to a certain degree, you're going to show everybody being positive.
Yeah. And how do you even know what it's testing for?
They're testing for, the PCR test is testing for certain DNA fragments, but even the developer of the PCR test had said you cannot just randomly go out there and start testing. It's not meant as a diagnostic device. It's actually the PCR test has a completely different purpose behind it. And there's some really good videos we went into detail, and some of the doctors that have gone into detail to explain really what the PCR test is. But the PCR test is not a legitimate test for diagnosing a pathology.
Well, I had a salesman here, I think he just wanted the day off, say he was feeling a little bit. And if you come around here and say you feel a little bit anything, get out of here. Period. No, only for liability reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, go get a COVID test and come back when you're clear. And so he went and got a COVID test, and he's clear. So I've had 2 employees take COVID tests, and both of them came back no COVID.
Well, and
by the way, that could be false.
That's exactly right. I would not go get a COVID test because my concern would be
they're tracking you.
Well, that too, but there's also some discussion now that some of these tests in some of the countries that they're doing are laced, when they draw the blood, are laced with the COVID. And you've probably heard about the government in Tanzania. They did when the tests came into the country, they randomly took a piece of fruit, papaya, and goat specimen from a goat. They labeled it as if it was humans, and they sent it in, and they both came back positive for COVID. So goats and papaya fruit are positive for COVID.
Yeah. The king was, or not the king, the main dude wanted to test the validity of the tests.
Correct.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, when people read these, they have what's called cognitive dissonance, which is like, oh, that's preposterous. Who could believe that?
Right.
You have these, let's call them pedophile rings that are supposedly freaking kids out and scaring the shit out of them so they can, drink the adrenochrome. Adrenochrome, you heard of that?
I have heard of that.
And supposedly that's like serious. And it sounds like, come on, dude. Tom Hanks is drinking kids' blood, and Oprah Winfrey and these Hollywood celebs and these ruling people. And then you think, damn, dude, could that be real? Because that's so preposterous, it's ridiculous. But it could be real. And there is really such a thing as adrenochrome, correct?
There is such thing as adrenochrome. Yes, I don't know about much of this. I've heard some of the things, and I honestly don't have any information, so I couldn't validate or disprove it or prove it.
What about the UK's got a new king? You heard that?
Yeah, I just read that actually a couple of days ago, and that was really interesting. And going back and forth, and again, I don't know about all these things, and I've been asked by other people the same kind of questions, Brad. I just I can't talk about something unless I really know it to be factual, and so I just can't comment on it because I really don't know. I'm sitting there intrigued by some of the stuff, wondering, thinking about it. But the coronavirus stuff, I mean, look, it's every aspect of the coronavirus. It's like every doctor and every researcher on the planet forgot everything that they learned in basic immunology, in basic first-year didactic medical school class of how the immune system works. They forgot about all the practical aspects of how the system evolves, completely ignored it. It's like whatever you know about broadcasting and editing and marketing, and now something comes along and you completely pitch it all down, and now you're just sitting there babbling about something, and you're not using tech, you're not using the lessons that you've learned and the techniques you've learned and how to sell and market and explain. You forget about it all, and you start writing stuff out in a backup piece of paper and dropping them from a plane, and that's what you're doing now for your marketing. It's like you totally forgot everything. That's what's happened with COVID-19, and I think a lot of it has to do with either one, people were promised something, or two, people were embarrassed. They were scared to come out and say it because they were afraid of their license, or they were afraid of how they would be treated by the peer group. A lot of people may have been scared in the beginning because they really didn't know any different. Now more and more doctors are coming out. After that first video that went 9.1 million views in 6 days, after that, more doctors have come out. I think you saw the London Real one that we did I had 166 other doctors from all over the world with me, and we've got about 7,000 doctors altogether. You just can't have 7,000 people on a Zoom call. And there's more and more doctors coming out, more researchers coming out, more people talking about it. And now, of course, who would have known that writing would have been the cure for COVID-19, because now nobody seems to be worried about COVID-19 when they're getting together. When police arrest somebody, or when there's a big tussle, you see all these people together. So demonstrations are okay for COVID-19. Going to restaurants, 50% capacity is okay, but going into certain buildings and having meetings with more than 10 people, that's dangerous. I mean, this is a preposterousness of the rules that some of these governors are putting out. The idiocy of them, the contradiction within their own orders. If that doesn't show you that this is all full of garbage, then I think a person is never going to know any different. I mean, to me, that old saying, for those who understand, no explanation is necessary. For those who don't understand, no explanation is possible. This is a perfect example of that.
So if you're sitting at home and you're worried about going to a party with, let's say, 100 people, close proximity, little house party, would you advise they go or don't go?
Well, we've already done our meeting with 256 doctors from all over the world, researchers and members of the public all together, and everybody had a wonderful time.
Not a mask in sight.
Not a mask in sight, except for the hotel staff, which by the time we ended the conference, even the hotel staff weren't wearing the masks.
So you'd say go to the party.
Why wouldn't you go to the party? If you don't want to go to the party because you don't like the people there, you don't want to drink, you don't want the cigarette smoke, well, then don't go to the party. But if you're going because you're scared of COVID-19, believe me, there's about 1,000 things you should be more concerned about than COVID-19, and one of those is that you have the wool being pulled over your eyes.
What about the people that had or have and know people that died from it? What would you say to them?
Well, nobody's died from COVID-19. People don't die from the flu. In fact, I've been a doctor for 29 years. And so when they talk about the rate of flu deaths, I've always wondered, why did they say that? Because I've never seen a patient die from the flu. Never. Not once. And then you talk to other doctors, they say the same thing. I've never seen anybody die from the flu. So then where did all these deaths come from when they report the death rate from the flu? Well, they're reporting the people that had comorbidity. It's the same thing. It's people that had diabetes and they had a fragile heart, or they had cancer, or they were immunocompromised, or they had HIV. I mean, people that have HIV or people that have cancer, what really kills them? Is it the HIV or the cancer that kills them? No. They never die of HIV or cancer. They die of a common cold. That's what they do. So they put it down as a seasonal flu. They die because their systems have become compromised to something that needs an opportunity, and as soon as it's given that opportunity, boom, it sets up house and kills them. So if you wouldn't go to a party because you were afraid that you would be susceptible to picking up something, like let's say you had a transplant. God forbid you had a heart issue and now you got a new heart put in. Okay, you're now an immunocompromised person. Why? Because one, you've just had a transplant, and so they're giving you steroids to suppress your immune system, which means that anything you even look at, you could potentially catch. Well, in that situation, the doctor would say, I would stay home. I would not go out and be in large circles of people because you could catch something. Okay? In that scenario, I would say, no, you should not go to a party with 100 people. No different than any other person that would have a transplant. But if you're worried about COVID-19, you know what category that fits into in my book. It's that dumbass category.